Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you're listening, wherever you're listening. It's the Bet Online Salute Detroit podcast. Bet Online Salute Detroit podcast is brought to you by Bet Online. Go to betonline.ag, get all your up-to-date minutes, odds, stats, and every bet you need to put in. Bet Online, where the game starts. Also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Go to underdogfantasy.com or Underdog Fantasy app. Put in promo code USC LAFB. Get your ultimate fantasy needs. We have a special guest on this special Monday where the Dodgers are up by 4 runs, where the Steelers and Russ is cooking. This is a weird day, and we're enjoying it. But we finally got the man here, the man, the myth, the legend, known as Tim Prangley. Welcome to the show. I've been calling for him, been putting the signal out. He finally answered. He's here to save Gotham City. Tim, how are you doing?
Good. Yeah, Ryan threatened me. That's why I showed up. He said if I don't show up, that he's disowned me. So he's not going to know me. So I'd come on by and say hi to you guys. Yeah, great. It's great to be here. Like I'm a big fan of the show. You guys know that. I'm always popping in your chat and I'm always leaving comments and stuff. So yeah, really appreciate what you guys do over here. Can't wait to have a conversation with you guys.
And we have the man himself, the mythical being known as Madman. Madman, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Coach. Great to be here. And our esteemed guest, Tim, so excited to have you on, Tim. We're big fans of yours as well. And, the content, creator community with SC is a small but mighty force. And so, you're a brother in arms. And so thrilled to have you on the show. And hopefully, Tim, Coach, brings us some good luck. The Dodgers close it out tonight, and we get to 3-0. So we got sort of one eye on the game as well.
So we're into the final stretch of the season. We got Nebraska, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, Notre Dame left. We got 4 games, as Coach Carroll will say, at the final quarter of the season. This is the fourth quarter coming up. We put some good things on the field. We put some not so good things on the field. But there's a glaring thing that's popping out on the field. And we've been talking about this. Everybody's been talking about this in that wide receiver room. Who's going to be wide receiver number 1? Who's going to do it? Is it going to be Jacoby Lane? Is it going to be Deuce Robinson? Is it going to be Kyron Hudson? Is it going to be Makai Lemon? Jamal was a Jacoby Lane fan. You guys know I was all about the Shandies, because I'm a Boston man, the Miller Lemon connection. And it looks like at this point in time, we're not going to say he is the guy because we don't know. But at this point in time, it looks like if we were buying stock, I'm buying stock in Makai Lemon. I'm buying stock in Makai Lemon to be wide receiver number 1. I made the comparison to Steve Smith. I think he's Steve Smith, not Steve Smith, Carolina Panthers, Steve Smith, USC, went to New York Giants, one that won the Super Bowl. Has the same frame. I think he's a little bit bigger weight-wise. But this is what's different between Steve Smith and Makai Lemon. He's deceptively fast. Not only can he play the slot, he could also play the outside, the X or the Z receiver. That's what also makes him very good too. And he's really coming into his own stride. We saw little flashes. And then against Rutgers, we saw the boom. The first flash we saw last December. We saw a couple of flashes here and there. He got hurt. He came back from injury, popped open. Not only that, surprise, he can return kicks. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is coming into a stride of his own. And I think that receiver room is finally seeing their bell cow. And I think the bell cow is going to be Makai Lemon. The biggest question we did have was what's going to happen when the quarterback left, and I can't remember his name now that he's gone. He went to Boise.
Oh, Malachi Nelson.
Malachi Nelson. When Malachi Nelson, because they were teammates, what was he going to do? He stayed. He became a Trojan through and through. And now looks like he's starting to lead the pack. I'm good with it because this opens up the deep shot because he's also an underneath guy. So I'm also good with it. Don't see any problem with it. But it looks like Makai Lemon is going to be the guy that's going to be leading this room for the rest of this year and next year coming. Let's hand it over to our guest. What do you think about this receiver room? Who do you think is receiver number 1?
Yeah, before the season, we had a conversation and we were doing our prediction show, and I did say Jacoby Lane would lead the team in touchdowns, but I said that Lemon. I just said Makai Lemon. I watched him. It's funny you bring up talking about Nelson. I watched him. I talked about it on my show a couple of times. Just watched him. Speaking of torching Bosco, we'll get off that topic. But they were like a 2-man show against one of Bosco's better defenses. And I saw that right there at Parent Stadium, right at Bosco at a playoff game. And I knew he was special. I mean, he was special. And I agree. He's deceptively fast, but he also has that he has good visions. You know what I mean? I think that's what's going to make him a really good kick returner. You see when he gets the ball in space and he's just looking, and he's just that guy that's special. To get the ball, he should get those yards after catch. He's tough. He's deceptively tough. Like he plays bigger than he actually is. He's got sure hands, and like I said, I've been touting him since he came to USC. We're talking before the show about how I really thought he might come and get a little more play last year. And you watched him, like he'll make that tough catch too in the bowl game, just get popped and he'll hang on to the ball. So yeah, he's got it all. And I thought earlier he would develop, but he's had some injury setbacks. That cheap shot in game 3 that he took, clearly to clean him out, was unfortunate, but he's back now and he's going to build on that. I thought he'd make that sophomore jump, and he's still going to. I think he'll get better, just like a lot of these young guys are going to get better every single game.
Man, what do you think?
No, I totally agree with Tim. And, we've sort of talked about the ebbs and flows here, Coach, over the course of who's going to kind of take that mantle, right? I mean, at the beginning of the year, it felt like, maybe it was going to be Hudson after that, iconic couple of catches against LSU, and he being a little bit more of the elder statesman. And then we had the big Jacoby Lane breakout game against Wisconsin, and we thought, hey, okay, maybe it's Lane's time. And now it's Makai Lemon who came up with the huge performance, obviously, against Rutgers. And Tim, I love how you said the word vision, because one of the things we were talking about is pre-catch, he's a wide receiver, and post-catch, he's almost a running back, like at 5'11", 190, and the way he carries the ball and the way, his running style actually, Tim, reminds me a lot of Alvin Kamara, just the way he runs and how smooth he is with the ball and how he kind of sets up his blocks, and there's sort of different level of pace to him. So I think he's the guy in that room that kind of has it all. Obviously, we've got, the big targets in Lane and Deuce, and then we got some guys who can obviously go deep with sort of Hudson and Fair and others down the line. But Lemon, it really has the makeup to be that every down receiver. The question I have, and I think we're sort of right at the infancy, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but assuming Makai Lemon has a 3-4 game stretch where he kind of seizes wide receiver 1 and also is sort of the primary special teams weapon from a return perspective, what does that do to Zach Branch? And I mean, are we headed for a world here where, does Zach Branch potentially enter the transfer portal, going into next year? I mean, that is going to be sort of a fascinating, I think, interplay. And it's just so interesting with how quickly college football comes at you, sort of preseason, we thought the whole offense was going to, revolve around Branch, all of the, the Jumpman deal, the EA Sports, his rating in the video game, and just such high expectations. And now it seems like Makai Lemon is taking a lot of what Branch was supposed to do. So I think one of the fascinating things to see moving forward here, these final 4 games, is how are those two going to play with each other? What's the interplay going to be like? And where can they kind of find their unique niches? And if there is a significant amount of overlap, does that potentially go into the thinking of what Zach Branch's future is going to be with USC in 25 and beyond?
You want me to tell you the truth, or you want me to be optimistic?
Coach, we always love the truth.
So if we talk in realities and we talk production wise and we look at stats and we look at what has been done, Zach Branch just got his first touchdown on Friday, and we're in game 8, I believe.
Yeah, and it was called back on.
The
crazy call.
Yeah, he's not. I think he's barely at 500 receiving yards. Doesn't really have any returns. You start to ask yourself, when you're sitting on the side of the desk, does it really hurt you if he leaves? You know what I mean? You got a bunch of young kids coming in. You got 2 loaded recruiting classes at receiver. The receiver room is loaded, and you do very well in the portal when it comes to receiver. If he leaves, I don't think it's the end of the world. Now, when you're optimistic and you're a coach and you look at things and you're like, hey, you know what? We don't want this kid to leave. Like, we want this kid to stay. We'll figure it out. We'll get it done next year. As you say, we're in preseason for 2025, right? So, and it looks like Notre Dame is better than what people thought, right? So, I mean, ideally, it's one of those catch-22s. Like, if he leaves, it's kind of like, okay. But I guess it's not even catch-22. But if he leaves, it's not the end of the world because it doesn't kill your game plan. But if he stays, you have to figure out what you're going to do with him, because then we're going to be having this conversation again next year. You know what I mean? Like, that's just my honest opinion. And I'm just going based off his production this year. You know, you guys got anything on that?
I don't see them as identical players, though. Do you know what I mean? I don't see them as mutually exclusive. I think if you use them properly, and I think you hit on that, Coach, when you said that, you know, you can keep them both happy. Right now they're doing right. They have Zachariah returning punts, and then who knows what happens to the evolution of Branch kicking the kick return. I'm in the camp saying there's something. I think there's something not right with Zachariah Branch. I mean, it's just, I hope, you know, I don't know what it is, but he's just, when we talk about Mekhi Lemon being sneaky fast, Zachariah Branch is fast. That dude is next level fast. I remember watching his high school, and I know it's high school, and I know the other kids are moving a little bit slower, but he is that guy, like, he speeds up and he keeps speeding up, and he get a really fast car and just keeps accelerating. Holy crap, this thing keeps accelerating. That's what I see with him. And I just don't see why it's not transferring. I would love to see more of those mesh plays, you know, end around, you know, whatever, like, you know, just something to get the ball with him in space, kind of like they did with Lemon. Lemon was wide open, and Zachariah Branch just needs to work on his route running. Everyone's been saying that for as long. I mean, everyone has been saying that forever. I think there's a world where they could both be on the same team, is all I'm trying to say. Because I don't think they're identical receivers, in my opinion.
Totally. No, Tim, I completely agree with you. And I think it is interesting. And I don't know what it is with Branch, because when you look at the film against San Jose State and you look at the film against Stanford last year, and it just, you know, where is that guy who just had so much confidence also in his cuts, right? I mean, there was the speed, but there was also sort of the side-to-side quickness where he was just so confident in terms of setting up his cuts. And it just feels there's a tentativeness this year. And I don't know whether it is, you know, the added weight that he put on, and maybe that's he's sort of getting used to his body, whether it is some of the pressure of you know, being a Jumpman athlete and being, you know, so decorated from an NIL perspective. And is he feeling more weight than perhaps he should? Is there something else going on, just, you know, overall, just holistically? But it is fascinating to see kind of where this drop off is. And I think it's a great point, Tim, because the touchdown that Lemon had against Rutgers, that route was the same route that Branch had against Maryland. And Moss just didn't throw him the ball. I think he went deep to cross, you know, on that play. So part of it is also just sort of opportunity as well. It's been a little bit of bad luck. Even when he's been open, he hasn't really gotten the ball. But it's going to be fascinating now to see, does Mekhi Lemon's play almost inspire Branch now to sort of kind of cut it loose a little bit? Or, you know, is there going to be kind of an interesting kind of chemistry between the two of them moving forward? Because Lane, Deuce, you know, even Hudson, those are different. Those receivers are built very differently. And so even them playing well, you're always going to sort of have your package for Branch. And granted, Lemon and Branch are different receivers, but there's more overlap between those two than I would argue sort of any two combination of USC receivers on this particular roster. So I think it's just going to be fascinating to see how Branch responds to sort of Lemon's emergence, and whether it's something that enhances him, or does it put even more pressure on him moving forward?
I will say this. There's a lot of reports coming out saying that this room is very cohesive and they all want each other to succeed. So, perfect world, I don't think transfer portal, you know what I mean? If you go off of the reports that you hear, I don't think transfer portal is a thing for Zach Branch. I think it's like, all right, Mekhi's excelling right now, but that's okay. Like, that means we're all excelling and we're all doing our thing together. So I think that's the positive, if that room is as cohesive as they really say it is. I think that does, like Tim said, I think that does start to open the mesh up now. Now you got them both running across the middle. You have to choose the difference. The only down thing I'm going to say is there's a little difference. So Branch got that match against Michigan. He got ran down. Mekhi Lemon got that match against Maryland. I mean, not Maryland. He got it against Rutgers. he took it 70. Last year Brents takes that 70. I do think, and I'm in agreement with you, Madman, I do think he put too much weight on. And I think they're going to have to cut him back this offseason to get him back to where he needs to be and try to retrain him to get those fast switch fibers going to get him faster and make him excel. Or, it could just be a sophomore slump. That happens in college football too. Yeah. He might come out next year and be like, all right, that's the guy we knew. There he is. Like, he's back. And all four of these dudes, Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon, and Zach Brents, next year they might have the year of the lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, Maiava be the quarterback. Lincoln Riley can go back to offense that he's more comfortable with. Apparently, he's not comfortable running a pro-style offense. Like, that's obvious to see. Now he could go back to running his stuff with Maiava, create more routes, and these dudes might just excel next year and see things that we are expecting to see and that we do want to see. So that's the kind of thing too. So basically, I think the room camaraderie kind of keeps this together, and if they excel and they succeed together, I think they'll be fine. You got anything on that, Tim?
I keep going back to where all the problems on the offense. I mean, I can't help it. I keep going back to thinking about the offensive line. And the offensive line, again, remember, we're talking Rutgers, but the passing lanes were open. Maybe he misses them earlier. You didn't see that route, because of the line. Maybe he doesn't have time to go through his progressions to get there. Really, I mean, I really don't know. I can't explain it. Simply with Branch, either we find something for him to do, or some other team's going to make a superstar out of him. So that's my biggest concern, Coach. That's what I'm thinking about. And there is talent dripping all over that young man. I think you guys are on something about the weight, but his dad, I mean, those kids, they know nutrition and fitness and stuff like that. They know their bodies. I'm curious. I'm with you though. There is something just not right. And I like the idea of sophomore slump. You make that sophomore jump or the sophomore slump. It just seems like that's one or the other usually in the sophomore year. And I like also, Jamal, the fact that you said about the opportunity, because sometimes you just got to get the reps, don't you? You just got to get those chances. So it'll be interesting to track it. It could be something to watch over the next couple of games, really.
You got anything on it, man?
No, I think really well said. I mean, Tim, I'm curious, kind of your thoughts on these kind of next 4 games sort of holistically. What are you sort of looking for as signals, for progress and for feeling good from sort of a momentum standpoint going into 25? What's going to be, we might not have as dramatic a moment as the Miller Moss MVP performance in the Holiday Bowl, but what is sort of a sequence of signals maybe that you're kind of keeping your eye on over these next 4 weeks?
I've been watching. I never thought this team was going to be a championship team. So I've been watching, just not necessarily eyeball test, but I've been watching how this team is playing and developing. I don't think people realize just how bad this roster was. I don't think people realize just how difficult it is to get an offense up and running. I mean, what Danton Lynn did last year at UCLA was just magical. I don't think that a lot of people don't realize that this defense is still, learning, and it's going to be that way. They're still adding to it. And I want to see them play 4 quarters on the road. We've seen them come close to 4 quarters at home. I didn't really know as much. I'll be honest. I didn't follow Lincoln Riley's career as closely as some people when he was in Oklahoma. I didn't really watch a lot of Big 12 football, to be honest with you. But what I will say is that it just seems like we are not mentally ready at the kick. The other team seems jacked to see us, and we're kind of like, hey guys, we're here. And then it's just like, it's just been brutal in every game. I mean, the LSU game that they woke up, and the Michigan game, they woke up and they got it going. But man, what if we get started in the first quarter? How about that? And then we're not playing from behind, because on the road, Husky Stadium, I mean, look, they have a lot of trouble. The excuses are the excuses. When you lose to Michigan, when you lose to a Penn State, then you can kind of rationalize it. But the losses they're having, I don't care they're on the road. It's Maryland. You're losing to Maryland, right? You're losing to, well, I'm not going to get into the end of the Minnesota game, but you should have never been in that Minnesota game situation. And these are the games where I can't give them, a lot of injuries, roster. It's not like USC's roster is subpar compared to the teams I just named. So I want to see coaching development like we've been talking about. I want these younger guys, which we're going to see, how ready are they? Because I'll tell you what, those guys up at Husky Stadium, they're going to be ready to kick some ass. I know it right on. And if we get off the bus and we think that we're special, It might be a long afternoon up there. So there's some offenses I think that we're going to be facing down the stretch here that I do think is going to test the defense, because although we're banged up, and there's a lot of starters that are out, I want to see some of that young development, because it's about time we start talking. We've been talking about development all off season, right? And the coaching staff, the coaches, and development coaches, and Coach Entz, and this and that, and Coach Henney. This is where we need to see it. I think we are. I mean, I'm actually bullish on that. I have seen Cam Fountain looks like I saw something in that game. I don't know what. It just looked like he had a spring. He was explosive, and he just like I was talking to Gabe. He was saying he just seems like he's really, for a young guy, he's really like making smart choices out there. So I want to see that development. I think we're going to see it. So that's what I want. I want to see that eyeball test with these young guys. I want to see that development we've been hearing all off season.
The only thing that worries me is I don't know if Lincoln Riley has ever been to Washington. And the reason why I say that is because when he went to Corvallis and when he went to Utah, he came back both times. It was like, we didn't know it got that loud in Corvallis.
Oh,
we didn't know anything about the altitude, and we didn't know it got that loud at Utah. Well, Husky Stadium gets pretty loud, and that lake effect, when they start barking, it goes off that lake and it starts coming back and bounces off the aluminum. It gets pretty loud, and I don't want to hear that excuse again.
Nope.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's my only worry is like, and you're right, he doesn't mentally prepare them for. And me and Jamal talked about this multiple times, like the sports psychology aspect of where Lincoln Riley puts these guys mentally isn't in a championship mindset. And I've been watching a lot of Nick Saban stuff. And the main thing that Nick Saban talks about, everything he talks about that I've been watching, is the details matter. The details matter. No matter what we do, the details matter. Every little small thing. And then it transferred over to Kirby Smart. He's like all about the details. So much to the point that everybody needs to have their undershirt tucked in. And if a player doesn't have his undershirt tucked in, guess who Nick Saban's getting upset at? Not at the player. He's getting upset at the coach, because he's like, how do we go through practice this long and not one of you guys tell him to tuck his shirt in? I shouldn't have to be doing this. Like, everybody is getting reamed. Everybody gets the same treatment, and the details matter. Like, so when it comes down to it and you need to make the play, you understand the details. I don't think he's getting them prepared for that, because you hear things like, we didn't know it got that loud in Corvallis. We didn't know it was like that in Utah. Like, or we're one play away. You know what I mean? Now we're 8 plays away. Like, those things mentally aren't putting him in the right situation. And I hope he talks to somebody in the offseason. I hope he gets in the right direction. Like, you need to start putting these guys in a championship mindset, because that mindset is not a championship mindset. It's kind of an average, we're almost there, kind of it's a loser mindset. Let's just say that. It's a loser average mindset, and that's not how you win championships. So that's the only issue I have, and that's my biggest worry about Lincoln Riley moving forward.
I don't know enough about their preparation to know that, Coach, to be honest. I mean, listen, they're coming out flat, so the proof is in the pudding, right? I get you there, but I don't know the messaging. I mean, you play for Pete Carroll, for God's sakes. I mean, like, messaging and how motivation. I mean, talk about motivation. To me, I've talked to Pete Carroll, asked him to do a video to say hi to my dad. That's about the extent of my conversation with Pete Carroll. So, I mean, but every video I've seen of him in a locker room, every little step, talk about details, just really being a master motivator. I mean, I'd love to hear more about that, how he'd get guys, to use a Pete word, jacked before the game, to get that going and come out and play 4 quarters,
We got jacked at the hotel. It started at the hotel. Like, seriously, like, at the hotel, like, we had like this big old scrum, and then like when we get to the stadium, no matter what stadium we got to, we start rocking the buses. Like, you know what I mean? Those are the type of, like, we're already. So Pete's whole thing is nobody is going to practice harder than us, and we're going to do it for an hour 45 minutes, and we're going to practice as hard as we can. So when we get to the game, nobody can outcompete us, right? But Pete was also into the details. His main thing is like the little things, like finish. Finish was my very first shirt that I got when I was a freshman at SC, was a shirt that said finish. And I couldn't even wear it to practice because we had to wear blanks at practice. It's things like that. Like, you had to earn you had to earn your logo. That's like one of the smartest things Dion did. Is like you makes the guys earn their logo. Like you had to earn your logo at SC, but like the very first shirt we got was finished. You didn't finish with the strength coach, they make you go back and start over. Like everything is about finishing. That's why his big thing was like you can win the game in the fourth quarter. You may have a bad first, you may have a bad second, but the fourth quarter we're going to finish this game and we're going to win. Like that was the mindset. And you have to do everything right in order to finish the game. Do your job. That was also one of his big things. Like one play at a time and do your job. I can't do Tim's job. I can't do Jamal's job. I can only do my job. And if everybody does their job and take it one play at a time, we'll come out of this thing on top. Those were the type of things we were hearing. And, I mean, the results are in the play. And not only that, people were telling Pete, you can't take it to Seattle. He took it to Seattle. Excuse me. Sorry. He took it to Seattle and then wins the Super Bowl. Right? So, that's like ground based. There's a lot of stuff that he taught us, but like basic, that's what you'll hear in like Pete 101 when you first get there to be successful.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of us, Tim, are gonna get the opportunity to hear that. You know, I don't know if you're tracking, but his new course, The Game of Life at USC, is gonna be a docuseries now. You know, so nice. Yeah, that should be really fun. No, Coach, I think that those are great points. You know, the one thing that I think Pete really was able to establish was core values. I think it was very clear with the players what his values were in terms of always competing, finishing one play at a time. I think that we're still sort of on the journey of what kind of Lincoln's values are. You know, I think that there's still, what are sort of the programmatic values that he wants to sort of instill? And I think it's sort of still evolving. And I think sometimes that's a little bit of a challenge with more of these kind of cerebral offensive guys. You know, everything is so sort of X's and O's and offensive schematics that sometimes you sort of forget how do you build sort of programmatic values. And I think that's sometimes why there is a transition with others who are very, very successful offensive coordinators or offensive coaches. How does that sort of translate holistically? And I think we're sort of on that journey right now with Lincoln. And I think, Tim, to your point, this week to me is a great test because Washington feels a lot like a game at Michigan, a game at Minnesota for a couple of reasons. I think one is, you know, they're 4-4 and they still got to play Oregon and Penn State. So guess what? They have to beat SC to get bowl eligible. Like you don't want to sort of have to rely on beating Oregon or Penn State to get the bowl eligibility. So you're going to play a very desperate team at home that came off of a loss to Indiana, but availed themselves, I think, quite nicely. And on top of that, Danton is seeing an old friend in Jonah Coleman here. You know, and again, this is now the 230-pound back against, you know, Danton Lynn. And now twice last year at UCLA, twice this year with SC. That second half with that 230-pound back, it seems to sort of wear out the front. And so I think it's going to be really key to see how this team grows and evolves because, you know, Coleman is of the ilk of a Mullings, of a Darius Taylor. He's sort of built that way. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how Jedfish sort of manages this game going into the second half, keeping it close. And I think we're going to kind of get a steady dose of Coleman. And I think we're going to see how these sort of young guys and how this front, you know, what their endurance level is, where they're going to kind of step up, and are they going to sort of allow a similar script to take place with some of these earlier games, or are they going to kind of stand up and have resistance? So I think there's a real opportunity here for us to feel like a corner could be turned. I think there was little to no signal you could get from a Rutgers game, to be just completely honest. I mean, they got lit up by UCLA the week before. So that was just always going to be kind of a let's sort of get the win and move on. I think this is a game where if USC is able to come out on top, I think it's an opportunity to see some growth in a very tangible way.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just calling for 4 quarters because, look, we're waiting for this offense to jump out to a 17-point, you know what I mean? They get out there, explode, and then we're letting other teams dictate how they're going to play offense against us. You know, if USC is supposed to be this great powerhouse, we keep talking about how great our receiving core is. We obviously see what Woody Marks can do. Right, I'm a huge Quentin guy too. So Quentin and Lemon, you guys, those were my guys I've been on for a while. I think USC needs to take it to Washington, you know, and really like have that first quarter jump out and get them out of their game. Because you're right, Jamal. If I was That's a great game plan. It's tried and proven. How does USC do that? They break the pattern. They don't come out slow. They don't waste any possessions. If you're not going to get a first down, at least change the field position. Make them earn it. If they want to run the ball all the way down the field without. I think again, you know what the thing is, or just do is. Yeah, run the hell of the ball because they don't call holding in this league. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why aren't we running the ball? As soon as Elijah Page learned that, like, oh, hey, holy shit! I mean, I'm out hearing stuff now. This is great. You know what I mean? As soon as he found that out, he wasn't getting blown by. If you notice, last couple of games, he's holding on like a rodeo cowboy. But I'll tell you what, he's not getting blown up the way he was before, and they're not calling it. You know what I mean? So I want to see USC take it to them. In that first quarter, because I agree. If we let them play that kind of ball, it doesn't, and that crowd, how loud they're going to be, it doesn't mix very well for USC to be successful at all.
No, I agree with you on that one. Yeah. So yeah, you guys got anything else? That was a nice show. We put some nice stuff together.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, I hope you're not going to be a stranger, and it's so great to sort of have conversations with you, and you're welcome anytime. We're all one big Trojan family.
Yeah, Sam, let them know. I was going to say, let them know where they can find you at. Also,
I'm all over the place. So as soon as I get together with Ryan, I'm gonna be writing here at LAFC. I did again. I always do that. LAFB. He's gonna kill me for that one too. As soon as I get, situated, I'll be writing here for LAFB. And then, if you guys have, like I said, anytime you want me on for the show, just let me know. I can come on over. I told Ryan that when we first initially talked to each other. And you can find me over at the Voice College Football. We do a post-game show, and I do a call-in show over there. And then my socials are Tim _Prangley for Instagram and for Twitter.
Hey, we're about to start doing Dodger stuff. You want to write for the Dodgers also? 162 games.
I'll tell you right now. I already have enough hats. I really probably don't need another one. I don't think I could do any more than I'm doing right now. To be honest with you.
I ask them that all the time. Like, who's going to cover the Dodgers, Ryan? That's a haul.
That's a hell of a beat. Yeah, that is a hell of a beat.
No doubt.
Good deal. Hey, I appreciate you guys for watching. Tim, I appreciate you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have someone like you come on. Hold on real quick. I'm sorry, it's windy out here and it's just kicking my butt. But if you guys want to do anything, if you like we said, we got Tim going to be writing articles for us pretty soon. Jamal's writing articles, Ryan's writing articles. You can go do all that at LAFBnetwork.com. We have the Rams, we have SC, we have the Chargers, we have the other team across town. Slowly bringing in the Lakers and the Dodgers. And the Kings, the other teams, they could just stay where they are. We really don't need them, but we probably will cover them. Don't forget to go to betonline.ag, get all your up-to-minute odds and latest stats, and put in a good little parlay wager. And if you want to enter Ultimate Fantasy, go to underdogfantasy.com or go to the Underdog Fantasy app. Put in promo code USCLAFB for a $100 bonus. And if you want to get some fantasy news, go visit our guys at LAFB. Armor Desai, Tad Desai, my Indian brothers from another, who Tab beat me in fantasy football this week, and he's so geeked because he's normally bad. I suck this year. All my guys got hurt. Neither here nor there. But check them out at LAFB. Guys, it's been fun. Tim, thanks for having me on. You guys know how it goes. Live free. Fight on.